Allow the everybody coming in.
Okay, Brian and Kevin are coming in. Why did he decline? Hold on.
Cynthia's in the
Okay.
attendee pool too.
Yep, we're ready. Cyn-
Yeah, Councilwoman Holland's in the
oh,
attendee
Cynthia, I
pool.
see her. Oh.
Good evening. I call to order this special meeting of the Verona Township Council for Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. Madam Clerk, would you please read the Open Public Meetings Act compliance statement?
The notice requirements of this special meeting have been satisfied with respect to the meeting of the Township Council. The meeting time and date were included in the public meeting notice along with the public internet link and telephone call-in information. Said notice and meeting agenda was posted in the municipal building and published in the official newspaper of the township, the Verona City Grove Times, on Thursday, March 13th, 2025. The agenda can be viewed online at veronanj.org/council meetings, and a public comment period will be held in the order it's listed on the meeting agenda, and instructions on how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Holland? Just to unmute, I'm asking her to. Councilwoman Holland? Can't hear you. She's not muted though. Councilwoman McGrath?
Here.
Councilman Roman?
Here.
Deputy Mayor McAvoy?
Present.
Mayor Tamboro?
Here.
Mayor, also present on this Zoom meeting is Township Manager Kevin O'Sullivan, Township Attorney Brian Alloy, myself, Municipal Clerk Jennifer Kiernan.
All right. Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
United States of
America
America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
all.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. The purpose of this special meeting is to review proposals for the Bloomfield Avenue streetscape. We have three firms that will be presenting this evening. The first will be the Neglia Group. Mrs. Kiernan, if you could arrange for them to enter, please.
Yes.
And just for the council, just because we're on Zoom and I'm just going to call on people and we'll just do all questions. We'll just go one person by one person to do questions rather than going back and forth. And we just wait until the end of the presentation to ask questions to manage the Zoom.
Mr. Intandola, is there anybody from your firm attending that I should promote as well?
Dave Jasmaski and Anthony Kiris.
Okay. Okay. Do you want me to make meeting host?
If you can give them sharing privileges, however you have to do that.
I do, I'm just not sure who should be.
I could do the, I have the PowerPoint loaded up. I could do the screen share and we could take it from there.
Good evening,
Okay, was that
everyone.
Mr. who was speaking? I'm sorry.
That was
Sorry,
in
I was
Tindola.
speaking.
Okay,
All right. Sharing is not turned off. I'm going to send a request.
did you receive that? I said like, yeah, I think you got it.
Try it again. All right. Pick the right screen. Okay, I think I have it.
Yep.
Okay. So, thank you, Mayor and Council and Mr. Loya and Mr. Sullivan for taking the time to speak with us. We are Neglia Group. Along with me is Anthony Kiris, who you may be familiar with the baseball field that he's been working on Bloomfield Avenue.
How are you?
And also David Jasmeski is another one of our veteran designers. The team that's presenting tonight has on average 19 to 20 years working for a Neglia Group. And this is what we do, municipal scale projects that are, worked through and feasible. So this is what we live for. So we're so happy to present. So we're here for the RFP that we submitted back in September. And so that was the cover page for it. And then we've been invited to talk about our experience. So I'll get right into it, the experience wise. So our office has 3 or 6 streetscapes of this scale, like for Hackensack Ave. In Kearney, that was a quasi federal project that had federal inspection process. We qualified to be federal inspectors on that project and saw it through. And that came out beautifully. Dave, who's on this call with us, did the Abbott Boulevard streetscape in Fort Lee. And that was an interesting one. They're all interesting streetscapes because that had the protruding basements into the right of way. And so we had to rebuild roof sections in several locations. And so we worked through that. And then we also did Wallington recently. And these are these are pretty straightforward for us, but it's not straightforward for the people on this call because, you're vested with coming up with a vocabulary of appearance for this run in Bloomfield Ave. And it's an important run because it has a couple of characteristics that it has. The park on the left-hand side as you come up from Montclair. And then there's a major left turn where people go on Pleasant Valley Way. And then you have your town hall, so it has like micro, not climates, but like each has its own mini neighborhood in the stretch that we're going to be entrusted with. And this is what we laid out for Bergenfield, which Dave and our planning group worked through. So what I'm going to do is just tell you what our design approach is to a streetscape. We listen to the aesthetic of the stakeholders, right? The people on this call, and you might have a subcommittee, they have a pretty good idea of what they want to see, right? And then we take your vision and we apply our experience and our design acumen to fruition. And we know that, some things cannot happen, but some things may happen if we're creative and we work through the permit process, whatever it may be. And we can't promise pie in the sky, right? Behind me is a French street scene behind Sacré-Cœur. It'd be nice to build that, but this is not Paris, right? This is Verona. Bloomfield Ave is a hard-working road, provides access. Sometimes when 280 backs up, it takes that same type of traffic, and we're mindful of that because, the three of us grew up in the area. Dave grew up in Clifton. I grew up in Nutley, and Anthony's from Saddlebrook. And so we understand what we're doing here. And then when we go to design and it goes to bid, whoever the design principal is going to be, it's going to be Anthony, Dave, or myself. We respond immediately when we go into construction because we can't wait around, and the contractor can't wait around, and block sidewalks can't wait around for the design engineer to say, we'll get back to you. We don't have an answer. In Neglia world, that is not acceptable, and that's how we operate. Someone calls us, a mayor, or Kevin, or Mr. Loya calls us, we respond basically on the spot as fast as we can. And we also understand the process of working with agencies. Like, if you look at Bloomfield Ave, it has a mix of the old Cobra heads and the newer PSE&G Acorns. And you may need that for the lighting, for security. And we understand that too. And we want to be judged when you get to the 36 months when everything's said and done and the sidewalks are not cracking, the decorative treatments are working, and the landscaping that we designed and a contractor installed is still alive. We believe that's where the real proof of success of our project. And it's safe to say that all of our projects meet that criteria. So that's what we really pride ourselves on. So now I'm going to have Dave speak, and he can give a little bit more background about the nuts and bolts on how we do that as well.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We appreciate the opportunity to present before you. Like Brian said, every streetscape is unique. Every streetscape brings its own challenges, and every streetscape project we've ever had, it's the businesses, whether it's the residents, whether it's the businesses in the area, are the biggest impacted stakeholders, if you may, of the projects. And that is one of the more where a lot of our experience comes in to make sure, you can get emergency vehicles in and out of projects. Your retail owners, your residents are happy. We have a lot of communication with them. And, we use our experience to promote the project as a whole. You saw some concepts and some plans we've done in the past. One of the more challenging ones was the one we completed in Fort Lee recently, as Brian said, where the retail uses of that streetscape, their basements were under the sidewalks and within the right of way, and they're aged. The shop owners and the retail owners didn't even know their basements extended into the right of way. So we had to come up with ideas and structurally to mitigate those conditions, to make sure the roofs can take the capacity of the new vehicles that would be on the project. That project as a whole, we incorporated several elements. We had street trees, we had decorative street lighting, we had EV stations, we had security cameras with fiber optics. We had make-ready EV stations. We had mixture of materials, pavers, concrete, asphalt, everything you can see in a streetscape. So I think our experience really would help any streetscape project, just because we know and we've been through the trials and tribulations of these types of projects, and we welcome the challenge that Bloomfield Ave will bring to our team. Brian, that's all I have. I don't know if we take questions now or
again, I just want to understand that we appreciate that for most people that live in Verona, Montclair, and the Caldwells, Bloomfield Ave is their lifeline. So we have to balance throughput, right, for rush hour, and also make an aesthetic that comes from you and put that together. You know, Dave and I and Anthony, we all have ideas of what to look for. Like when I drive down this section of Bloomfield Ave, it's kind of like an amphitheater when you come down from Route 23 or Pompton Ave, and then it goes down and then it bellies out, and then so you can really create a nice platform for landscaping. Right now, there's not a lot of street trees on Bloomfield Avenue, and that might be by choice because you want to create as much pedestrian walkways as possible. But that doesn't mean you can preclude putting in vegetation or landscaping, because in my experience, that is really, after a couple years, is the difference of a really beautiful project and a project that's okay. Like if you look at Bloomfield Ave, this section did the first or second generation of the colorized crosswalks that they're no longer used because they were a hot application and they tile and they chip. And if you don't maintain them every year, they kind of like they tile the brick, individual brick looking pieces come up, and we're mindful of that. So we don't recommend them anymore. We use a different product that emulates that. And so these are the things that we've learned over time. And, you know, again, touching base, we understand that we're like a guest for Bloomfield Ave, meaning that it's ultimately their right of way. And we respect that, and we don't overpromise beyond that expectation that we can get the county to agree to this. If it's a non-starter, it's a non-starter, and we don't want to waste anybody's time. We really like to get to a bid package in as soon as possible, but we want to make sure we exhaust every avenue of input that Verona presents to us, no matter what the experience of that person is or how that. And on whatever venue that you want to do that, we will participate as an active participant or as someone to go to a listening situation or something like that. And we understand that. And I think for this section, buy-in is really important. And so that the design doesn't come from the three of us at Neglia Group, but it truly is that Verona is looking to refresh this section of Bloomfield Avenue. And we just want to be the helpers to get you there, right? We help you. We help the bidders understand what we're doing. We help the county understand that we're within our area of design. If need be, by the stream in Verona Park, we'll help the DEP understand that we're not causing a major permit that would hold up the project, and we're mindful of that. So all these things, our role is to help get the project, to get boots on the ground and to get it under construction. And we also have a veteran inspection team that understands how we drive projects. So that's really where we're at. And if you guys have any questions for us, I'll stop sharing my screen for now, and we can take it from there.
Sure. We're going to go through this council member by council member. If we have any questions, I'll start. Do you have any specific recommendations for Verona? I know a lot of the presentations, the other two presentations we're going to hear this evening based on what they submitted to us, put some tentative recommendations out there as things that we should be looking at, different options for various different parts of the project. I didn't see a lot of that in your presentation. So if you have any specific items as far as what analysis you've done of the issue in Verona, and then any recommendations that you would have to address, even on a macro level, those issues that you've identified through your research into this specific project, that would be helpful for the council to hear.
Right. So we believe we should not make that presumption of setting the table for an aesthetic. We believe we need to listen first, and you drive the aesthetic. In larger terms, as we have said, I don't believe that you have a 4-lane cross section on Bloomfield Ave for the streetscape. I don't see a dramatic change in that because you need the throughput, but you can also make it enhance the aesthetics by using street species, tree species that are salt hardy, and there's any number of species. I think there's an opportunity going into your town hall that could be a part of more of pedestrian access. It seems like it's a really nice area to enhance as basic landscaping right now on the Christmas tree, but I think that can become like a centerpiece of this if that's the way you want to go with that. And I believe that because of the topography, you could have from both the west approach and the east approach, as you come into Pleasant Valley, you can have, that's like a stadium seating. And you can really place showpiece plantings where Murph's used to be and those corners, and working with the county to make that really something that you remember when you drive through. That would be my initial take, which some towns have done that successfully, but if you have a concept that is not maintainable in 3 years, I believe it's worthless, right? If the DPW ultimately takes over a project, it has to be maintainable, right? And we want to understand what you can maintain in that 3rd year, because anything else that's labor intensive to maintain, unless you want to go to the expense of hiring a landscape company, on an annual thing, and you may have an annual landscape company that would supplement your DPW, but we're not making that assumption right now.
Sorry, my computer wasn't cooperating for a second. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, do you have any questions?
Brian, I noticed in your presentation, you had a line in here, we designed to the 3rd year of implementation. That was one of my questions. I think you just answered it,
Right.
correct? Okay.
Like you
I
hire
understand.
us, right? You hire us, you go
Yeah.
through the pain of a contractor detours and pedestrian move arounds, and then there's year 1, it looks okay. Year 2 still looks okay, but you come to the 3rd year, you get a harsh winter, and the species that we recommend, they die because of salt. That's where we want to be judged, and we understand that you want it to be beautiful, but it is a public facility that needs to be battle tested. And there's a lot of traffic. I think the ADT on Bloomfield Avenue, the last time I looked at the NJDOT was 26,000 to 30,000 cars a day. It's a lot of cars, and so we have to be mindful of that. And so that's so we have to make it. We have to make pedestrian enhancements that work, that don't cause accidents, or lessen accidents, and we put that all into perspective when we design.
So quickly, touching on what you just talked about, the amount of traffic. I know the Route 23, Bloomfield Avenue intersection is one of the busiest in Essex County. If you've been in Verona, do you anticipate that changes we do to, you're basically looking at our town center from Fairview to Park. Do you think those plans that we decide for there should be implemented in our extended town center and even to the west going towards Caldwell's?
So once you come up with the design aesthetic, right, the typical way a town would advance that. This is how we, like, you have the 1st generation 2x4 struck joints in your concrete, which is a similar pattern that we have in Rutherford. It was very popular 15, 18 years ago. I think you did your last streetscape about 18 years ago, if I remember correctly, when you did that and you put the brick band in there. Mm-hmm. And then the decision was made not to put, to make tree pots, because maybe it was not sustainable to put the trees in these sections, or Verona Park was good enough that was our greenery, so we would not, I don't think that if I take a lane away from Bloomfield Avenue to enhance the sidewalk area or planting area, I don't think that's a promise I could keep. I think Essex County would push back on that. And I think that
Agree.
as a mayor and council, that would be a hard sell because it's from, like you said, from Route 23 and Bloomfield Avenue, one of the busiest intersections in Essex County. And that left turn going westbound onto Pleasant Valley Way has to be one of the heaviest left turns in Essex County as well. I remember it was a single lane. And it backed all the way up to, I think, by High Henry's or something like that. It took a while to process that left. I think it works okay now. So I really don't think that needs to be revisited, but maybe the streetscape is to beautify what's there.
Thank you.
Councilman Roman?
Thank you. You touched on a couple of points that I found interesting. Number one was discussing that sort of stamped brickwork, simulated brickwork that we have and how it's breaking down. I agree with you on that one. I'm kind of curious if there's any other pitfalls that we should avoid that you've seen in other towns. And then my second question, I'll make this a compound question. One of the challenges we face is that the sidewalk widths are variable through the downtown by quite a bit. Positing that we're not going to take traffic space away from Bloomfield Avenue. How would you deal with that in the design?
So then, unfortunately, you have nice wide sections of sidewalk when you go to the west of Town Hall, right? They're almost 8 feet, which is like cafe space, right? And then it goes down and next down if you have a utility pole, and it makes the 5 or 6 feet with 34 inches being a minimum for wheelchair access is what we look for. So how do we make a singular sidewalk that has a uniform, say like 5 foot minimum? You have that now, and the areas that you don't have it that are wider are like bonus areas. So I don't think we can create new sidewalk space by pushing the curb out into Bloomfield Avenue, but there may be opportunities where there's dead space against building fronts, or being creative that where they do have planters and building fronts, they go to the building face, and then we add movable planters to make the sidewalk wider. But like you don't want to make it an obstacle course. And then getting back to so that's the widening. The other pitfalls we see is that like say for instance you do a curb bump out to make the path for the pedestrians to be shorter than it was before at an intersection. And what we find is that it's great in design on paper, but you also have to account for the moving of the catch basins that are at the corner that have to be moved out and doubled when you bump out the curb to make that, and that brings up the price from a simple sidewalk move to a drainage improvement, which in a streetscape, you want to get your most bang for your buck by not making it a drainage project that all of a sudden is led by, a streetscape project that all of a sudden is led by drainage. And to be honest, as a design engineer, you have 2 hills that go down into Verona Park. So whatever we do, we're going to be brilliant. But I don't, that's the pitfalls we see, that sometimes you make it so the drainage gutter lines are blocked and we have to make a way of not ruining that, but managing that. And the other thing was the other pitfalls. I'll let Dave or Anthony chime in on that because we've lived it.
Sure.
One thing that always drives us crazy, not crazy, but we have to manage it, is you'll do a project and then all set to go. And then the landlord or the business owner will say, I need a new basement door on the sidewalk. So if you don't budget for it, or if you have wishful thinking that you're not doing basement doors in your project, you are doing basement doors and you have to embrace it and management at the get-go. So those are some of the things we've encountered.
Yeah, and some of the design components that we've incorporated over the years is not placing pavers simply on stone. if you have a paver band, or if you have pavers at all within when your walkways, those usually with the temperatures, they fluctuate, pavers pop, becomes a maintenance nightmare for your DPW, becomes tripping hazards, becomes non-AD compliant any longer. So we've been constructing basically concrete subbases, perforated concrete subbases to address that condition, and it helps definitely with the durability and Brian's comment with the 3-year look ahead on the durability of a project when your pavers haven't moved, just like your concrete walkways haven't moved. That's a positive thing, because we don't want to create any negative impacts with respect to ADA compliancy and tripping hazards and undue hardship on your DPW to try to maintain a streetscape.
Thank you.
The woman McGrath.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for this great presentation. I am the council liaison to the Shade Tree Commission, so I definitely appreciate, and they are looking forward to putting in more street trees, in general in Bloomfield Avenue. So they're going to be excited to participate in this project. I have one lengthy question and just 2 shorter ones. This is an area that gets a lot of flooding. You already mentioned the Peckman River. Unfortunately, our business owners in particular, right where Verona Park is, have experienced a lot of flooding when we have those very intense rainstorms. So how does Streetscape Design can streetscape design mitigate some of the flooding risks we have with these downfalls? Where do you see that as your see that aspect in this project?
So I'll speak from experience. At the Peckman River, that drainage area is basically a third of Essex County that comes to that intersection at Pleasant Valley and Bloomfield Ave. And our run is marginal, relatively speaking, into the contributory area of that drainage basin. But it's not to say we give up or put our hands up in the air. If it becomes very important to the towns that we work in to have mitigative drainage, like rain gardens, which were like you may have seen them in Hoboken. I've installed them in East Orange, nearby East Orange. And if that's important to the township, like I said, we did not presume to come up with drain concept because we want to hear from you first. And if that's important to the township, then we would consider those mitigative strategies of best management practices that's in the DEP toolbox for that. And then so sometimes a paver band can be porous, that it's not as durable, as David said, on a rat slab or a concrete slab, but maybe the upper areas can be porous. But that's what we look at. We try and do a mix and match. I wouldn't recommend that down at the Peckman River because it does go underwater about, I don't know, you can tell me better. I think every like 4th year when you think you're clear, it's not going to happen again, and then it happens again. Yeah. So we're aware of that. That's why I don't know if we're overstressing durability, but that's what you're paying for, and you want it to last. It's a 20-year, 25-year investment.
And then very quickly, do you have direct experience working with Essex County? So
Yes,
you mentioned that that's key.
yes.
What did you work with them on?
So specifically, myself and John Sable, our landscape architect, we just did Belleville Park Fields, in off of Belleville Avenue in Belleville. So there's a lot of Belleville there. So we finished those, and we also liaise heavily with Essex County in our role as the Montclair Township Engineer, with various traffic issues, drainage issues, because there's a disproportionate number of county streets in Montclair, and for that we liaise with them a lot, and we have a good rapport, and we can pick up the phone and say, here's our situation, what do you think? And we respect that because they have experience well, and they respect that we bring that to them. Like we're not, it has to be in a collegial environment for that. So that's in, and the same with PSE&G, getting the new streetlights. Where are they? Where's the service? That's typical drama in any project that we do, but we know how to manage it and we try and stay ahead of it.
Great, thank you.
Well,
Thank you. Can you hear me? Great. Mindful of where we are on time, I'm not going to belabor the point. Some of my questions regarding drainage and what your recommendations are have already been asked by my colleagues. So just before we close out, I think you've said it a few times, your position is you really want us to be making these recommendations and that you would then advise on that. Is that correct?
Not exactly.
Okay.
What we want to understand is, what is your vision? What do you want it to look like? Do you want it to look like Ridgewood downtown? Do you want to have it look like Westfield downtown, or some downtown that you really love? Maybe something up in like New Hope, right? It's something like that. Once we get that design aesthetic, right, that's what we need to elicit from you. And then we turn that into a project that is, road ready, and we'll get the durability and the beauty that you want from it. We want to listen first. We really do.
Understood. So, but I also view aesthetic as different than, for example, addressing drainage things. So, for example, in the context of the drainage discussion that you were having with my colleague a moment ago, you indicated that, well, if we wanted to be like Hoboken, we could do this, that, and the other. But I would really welcome from you all as an engineering firm, and perhaps this is my question then, is what would be your recommendation? I mean, we are a valley town. We had even a heavy rainstorm last night. There's a significant amount of drainage issues that are well established on Bloomfield Ave. So I would really like to hear from you if you think that the rain garden approach is the right way to go to help mitigate some of that on Bloomfield Avenue, so that we aren't having torrents of rainwater coming down the hill and creating issues for traffic, for pedestrians, washing out the street trees that we would have just planted and the like. So, I mean, if you have a recommendation on that, that's excellent. If you think, it's a variety of options consistent with the DEP recommendations, I hear that as well.
Right, so that's what we would look at. Like when we design a project, a streetscape, we have to understand and manage expectation that it is not a drainage improvement project and will not solve the Peckman River. To be fair to the process, we will do everything we can that balances drainage improvements to address those issues on that stretch of Bloomfield Avenue. But to say that that's going to solve Bloomfield and Pleasant Valley Way flooding, because the area, I believe, I didn't do the point analysis. I believe it's like a third of Essex County comes through there. So it's that, and we want to make something that I know it's going to go underwater, and we're not going to be able to avoid that in the context of the project that we are working on. But we can do what we can for our strip of Bloomfield Avenue, make it beautiful, address your aesthetic, and make it durable. And where we can, put as much drainage in as possible. If that's the priority of the people or the selection committee that we're working with.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night, and we'll circle back.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity again, and thank you so much.
Okay, Mrs. Kiernan, if you'd bring in the next group, please.
I'm bringing in the next two. Yes, thank you.
This will be T&M Associates.
Correct. Antonios Panagopoulos and Mark Vizzini. There we go.
Good evening. Mark Vizzini should also be in the waiting room.
Yeah, I'm bringing him in right now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
There he goes. Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you. Welcome to our meeting. We look forward to hearing your presentation.
Thank you.
We'll give you time to make whatever presentation you like. At that point, the council will ask all the questions when your presentation is over. Council member by council member will give you the opportunity to answer as you go. Mrs. Kieran will give you permission. Who would like to be the presenter of your slide deck?
So Mark's gonna present. I'll introduce myself. My name is Antonio Spenagopoulos. I'm a department manager here at TNM. I'll be the assistant project manager on this project. The main project manager is out for some health issues, but we expect him back within the next few weeks. So he'll be stepping in as the prime project manager. And then I'd like to introduce Mark Vizzini, our landscape architect, and I'm going to hand it over to him.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Mark Vizzini. I'm a landscape architect by education and license. I'm a regional market sector leader, heading up our land development practice out of our Bloomfield office in New Jersey. I don't know how much you know about T&M Associates, but we're an engineering firm established in 1966. We have over between 350 and 400 professionals with over 200 licenses, and we perform surveying, civil engineering, landscape architecture, environmental engineering, water resources, health and safety. We do FEMA flood studies. So we're a very well-rounded firm. We also do municipal and private sector engineering. So Antonios is on our private side, on our public sector side, and I'm more on our private side, but together we're part of our community and land development practice, which we're very integrative and collaborative. So we work together, even though I tend to work more on the private side. We work a lot with our public sector and municipal practice. We're very excited for this opportunity to help create or help you vision a new streetscape for Bloomfield Avenue. And I guess that's it about our about the firm, and we'll get going. We think this is a great opportunity for Verona to kind of create a new identity for your downtown. And while it comes with some challenges in that you have very narrow sidewalks within this area. Right now, some of the sidewalks are kind of worn. They've actually held up fairly well, considering I think they're about 18 plus years old. But it's due for a change, and we'd like to help Verona get to where they're at and maybe solve some issues, help with the aesthetic. Sorry, my dog, of course, is hounding me as I'm giving this presentation. So we think there are definitely some benefits to streetscape. There's aesthetic appeal, community and economic impact, social and environmental benefits, accessibility and connectivity, and of course, safety. Some of the essential components of a vibrant.
Can you share your screen with President?
The whole time I thought I've been sharing my screen. I've done this for 4 or 5 years now, and I should have. Sorry. Presentation. Here we go. Share. My apologies. Again, I was just speaking of some of the existing conditions of the downtown and the streetscape that you have. You have some nice lighting, a decorative pavement band that looks nice, that traditional flag scored running bond paver, scored sidewalk. Obviously, there's benefits to enhancing the streetscape, which I just talked about: aesthetic appeal, community and economic impact, social and environmental benefits, accessibility and connectivity, and then of course safety. Some of the essential components, again, we talked about accessibility. We want to design sidewalks that are good for everyone, whether you're impaired or not. Clear visibility, no trip hazards, ADA compliant. Sustainability, we have a very narrow sidewalk, so to the extent we can do it here, whether we can add some planting, bump outs or bioswales, tree pits, light colored pavements to reduce urban heat island effect. I see it in the streetscape that we're doing. The sustainability portion is a minor one in this, but we can add small elements to the streetscape. Constructability is definitely key. Clear pedestrian circulation. There's different means in which we can provide aesthetic benefits, and then of course costs. Again, accessibility, we want to make sure that our streets are inclusive and they can accommodate all users with disabilities or not, while promoting a vibrant downtown. Again, we can try and incorporate some green infrastructure, sustainable materials, energy efficiency if we do new lighting with LED lighting. Constructability, we want to make sure that it's practical to build within the constraints of the time, the budget, and existing infrastructure. We want to phase the construction, make sure that we're speccing material that's readily available, and make sure we plan accordingly with the town, the DPW, even so far as if there's any special things that happen with any of the existing businesses to try and limit the interruption during the construction. So for pedestrian circulation, we want to enhance the safety and convenience, provide connectivity, safety features, the truncated dome, clear lines of sight, less interruptions, keep stuff out of the walking zone of sidewalks, less trip hazards. With aesthetics, we want to make sure we can pick up the character and community, of the neighborhood and the community. Establish a design harmony, try and incorporate some public art, landscaping improvements, whether it's street trees in key locations, planters with seasonal or annual plantings. They provide a vibrant punch. And then cost. We really want to make sure that we understand the budget that you all have and that we design within that framework. And make sure as we go through that process that we're constantly checking it against that budget so that when we put this out to bid, it comes under budget and we don't have any cost overruns. Here's just some examples of uplighting, flower beds. We can pursue opportunities for bump outs. That's a bigger lift. We'd have to deal with the county. There might be some drainage. There's typically drainage rework. There might be some instances where you could maybe design it where you didn't have to do it, but that's something that we'd have to work with the county on because they own the road. Walkways, we think that's where you're going to get your biggest bang for your buck if we wanted to provide a real punch. I know right now we have a concrete sidewalk and a paver band. We could look to do the whole sidewalk as a color, to make the statement here's a bigger, instead of your narrow band, this example in the corner here just provides a bigger punch of color. And that typically where you get it with a narrow sidewalk where you can't always get trees in and you do want to make that statement, you can do that with a pavement, whether it's a stamped and colored concrete, brick pavers. Again, it's a balancing act between cost, maintenance, and it's something that we'll work with you guys to establish, and we'll help guide you there once we get your input. I think originally they wanted to have a design concept, but there's also a public participation aspect to this. So rather than be presumptuous, we really want to work with you and key stakeholders to kind of get some input as to what you'd like to see. And then we use our professional experience and our engineering to come back to you and say, hey, I think this is how we can incorporate some of these. We never can incorporate all of them, but we at least got your input and your feedback, and then we will present the design alternatives back to you. And you'll have an opportunity to weigh in and say, yeah, I like this, or no, I don't want this, or I really need this in here, not that. So, we really want to work with you all to develop what those key programming items are. I know it was mentioned like site furniture, lighting. I mean, those are some simple things, but if there are more specific items that come up during that process, we can try and incorporate that into the design. We think that there are some key steps to a successful streetscape, and that's one, let's work with you all to define the goals and objectives and what we think the outcome, what we want the outcome to be. We want to make sure that we analyze all the existing conditions, have a great survey base map, walk the site, talk to the retailers in the business, find out, where our key pedestrian crossings, key pathways, where people hang out the most. And, then we can incorporate those existing conditions into the design. We will work with you to develop a conceptual design where you guys will get to weigh in on different aspects of, the lighting, the paving, site furniture. Again, those are key elements we will incorporate into the streetscape. We will ensure, accessibility and safety and access at intersections, at entrances to storefronts. We'll integrate, the key thing to a streetscape is when you make everything fixed, the second you need to change something, it becomes impractical. So where you can incorporate flexibility and adaptability, if you have some spaces that are, some spaces have bigger, you're right in front of the town hall there, design it so that it can meet a multitude of things. It's not just designed for one activity or one use, that you get multiple uses out of it. We want to engage the community, present the final design, and then key is to implement it and monitor it as it's being constructed to make sure it meets rigorous standards. And we provide or the contractor builds a final good quality product at the end of the day. That is our presentation. We're excited and want to thank you for taking the time to listen to us and give us this opportunity.
Thank you. If you could stop sharing, we'll do council questions. You could just return the meeting to, there you go. All right, we'll start this time with Councilwoman Holland.
I'm happy to go later. Thank you.
Councilwoman McGrath.
Thank you so much for your presentation and some of those concepts that you talked about. This is an area, unfortunately, that floods during high frequency rain events. We've had several where our businesses across from Verona Park, where the Peckman River is, they do get flooded from time to time, and a massive amount of rain does flow, down Bloomfield Avenue across the sidewalks, into that area. How do you incorporate best practices with stormwater management and some newer concepts that towns have been starting to put in, like rain gardens, etc.? Is that part of the streetscape project as you see it?
So, and Mark, you're muted, but Mark mentioned earlier, we'll limit on space. That's one problem, right? Then we have the county, it's their roadway, so that's another issue. So anything we do, we would have to use a space that we have and work with the county to try to make more space to store water or whatnot. This project, that the way we looked at it, it's a streetscape project, so the opportunities are in the sidewalk and the streetscape that you're looking to upgrade. Mark mentioned earlier some rain gardens that would take some bump outs if the county would allow it. You could do some bioswales or maybe in the paver strip alongside the roadway, the first couple feet behind the curbing, maybe allow some entry points for water to get in there to absorb the water with some stone or something under the curbing. drops in the bucket. I know it's a bigger problem than it's a huge problem. That's something that would have to be studied and looked at on a more global project, and that's I want to say it's probably the county would have to weigh heavily in that type of project because of the limitations that we have here.
To see any you really, frankly, wouldn't see any improvement with what we do in the streetscape due to the lack of space with the flooding. That being said, more trees, more green help anything. It's a little drop in the bucket. You're at the valley, you're on the downstream end. A lot of times it's people on the upstream end that cause the problems for the people on the downstream end. So we really can't fix that. But, adding as much green as you can doesn't hurt. You can play with some different cost items, and I'm forgetting the name of the chamber now that you can use under a streetscape. But it's very expensive. First of all, you got to remove quite a bit of soil. Hopefully it's not impacted environmentally. The chambers themselves are expensive, but that is a means to put stormwater. The other thing is you are narrow with sidewalks, so you really don't want to put stormwater too close to basements, right? So we're really tied here on any real benefit that we're going to get with stormwater. I'd advise not, there should be a certain distance away from the building that you kind of put any stormwater management. But, if we can do any landscaping, more trees we can do, the better. We can look at using some permeable pavements, but again, then you run into a maintenance and longevity issue. And what is the town happy? What are they looking to get out of the years before they have to do this again? And, sometimes, I don't know if we've seen the historic data on the permeable paving, on how far we can get. But those are things we can look to incorporate. I just don't know that we're going to do anything of substance that helps with the flooding, unfortunately. What we do need to do is, in the area where it floods, we do need to make sure that we are designing to withstand those floods, right? So we got to make sure that our pavement sections are good, or any furniture that we're putting in that area is locked down, or maybe we avoid putting furniture. But just we got to understand that that area is impacted, and we got to make sure that we design that it can withstand the flooding.
Right, thank you for answering my question.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilman Roman.
you. We will probably have some significant redevelopments along this corridor that'll be at various times. Some may come up during the course of work on this corridor, some may come up after. And I'm curious how redevelopment impacts streetscape, how to plan ahead so that it integrates well. What are your thoughts in that concept? Because we've found this is a corridor that people are always looking to do things in.
So
Is new construction you're talking about, like mixed use or commercial?
Correct. If someone, for example, if there was a building that was to be redeveloped and someone wanted to replace an existing structure with a mixed use or something like that, how does that affect streetscape? Are there opportunities there? How do we ensure that we restore what we had if they have to tear it up, et cetera?
I work in some other towns. And one town we're actually doing a streetscape right now. Or we're in the process of designing, and there's some developers ahead of us, there's some developers behind us. But we know what we want, with the design is there, so my point is, once the design is made, or once the town agrees to a certain design of the streetscape, in that particular town, we have the contractor install the streetscape after their construction. So we would put it on them to pay for it in front of their site, and match whatever the standards are, or the type of streetscape that we're looking to install.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. One of the specific challenges that we deal with this streetscape is our sidewalks are variable width. In front of some buildings, they're narrower. In front of other buildings, they're wider. How do you deal with that in the context of maintaining a harmonious design and using space well when you don't have a consistent sidewalk width throughout the project?
It is a tough one, because not only do you have, typically you have your zones like where you'll have street trees, parking meters, traffic signals, they're all within usually the first couple feet. Then you have a pedestrian zone, and then you have another zone up against buildings where if it's wide enough, they can get seating or not. And I know that is varied here. I've seen some instances where the traffic signals are actually pretty deep into the sidewalk. Yeah, that is something we're gonna have to look at and see how we can keep that pedestrian zone clear, so or the walking zone, I'll call it. And because it's so varied, I think we're just gonna have to look at it on a case by case basis and see how we can use either site furniture, planters, or something to define the we'll call it the edges and maintain that clear walk space. But I think we're gonna have to go through and see how we can, make the maneuvering work clear and concise where you're not in and out, but you typically want to create a consistent pedestrian zone so people aren't walking into things and whatnot. So that's one of the things we'll definitely look at. Again, it becomes a balancing act too. Like if you can provide spaces for restaurants outside for seating, you want to incorporate that, but we'll look to define those zones each, block by block.
And then last one for you, bicycle infrastructure. We kind of have relatively minimal bicycle infrastructure through this corridor. Even, things like public racking and other things like that. People, kids ride bikes on the sidewalks. Any thoughts on integration of, recreational and transit for bicycles into a corridor?
Well, again, our sidewalks are so narrow. We're never gonna get on street like a dedicated bike lane on the sidewalk. I think if anything, within the street, it'd have to be via the county. But I think what we can do is where we have the space and where people do congregate with their bikes is definitely look to see if we can put bike racks for bike storage. But
Well, to the road,
yeah, what's that?
parallel to the road, not like,
Parallel to the road,
not
just-
perpendicular. Or
Um,
the kids could just throw them in the middle of the sidewalk like they always do.
yeah.
That's
But yeah, the bike lane issue is a whole separate issue with safety, and that would end up essentially taking a lane within the roadway, eliminating a parking lane to fit that, whether it's both on one side or split. But so I don't see that being accommodated within the sidewalks. It's just not wide enough to accommodate both the pedestrian and the bicyclist with that standard. Obviously kids are riding their bikes on the sidewalk, so it happens, but if we not enough room to put a true bike lane or a dedicated bike lane
Thank you.
without losing a lane.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. First, thank you guys for your presentation. The bike question was one of mine, but I want to go a little further on that. We talk about bump outs, and you mentioned something about key crossing areas. So my question is, if you put them in a design plan, do you go to the county and present it to them? And have you had times where I'm sure they say, no, we're not doing this, or yes, they will do this, but if you presented, I think I saw somewhere where they actually did a bump out where there was a parking spot, but they used it for EV bikes only. Have you seen that in other places? I did see it in one spot. And you could probably, I'm just going to ask both my questions here. As far as the construction plan, I mean, this stretch of Bloomfield Avenue is it's under 3/4 of a mile. An idea of how long of a process this would be, and would you tackle this in 2 stages, say Verona Park West, Verona Park East, or do you split that up?
so for the first question, I've seen like Hudson County is big on biking and bike lanes, especially in Hoboken, and on county roadways. And Jersey City, I believe, has a bunch of bikeways in county roads. It's really, I don't know. I don't know that Essex County would want to give up a lane of roadway on this very busy street.
I'm not saying necessarily a whole lane, but say one parking
Shallow.
spot two spots for, because a lot of people use these bikes now
Oh,
for,
you mean for bike
Oh.
parking you're talking about?
yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. I mean, I would think it's still a county issue, but that's more local. I mean, what do you, the town value more? Parking for 2 vehicles or parking for 6 bikes or 8 bikes? You know, it's really something that I think you would have to make the case unless there's a way to maybe fit some, what I mentioned parallel bike parking instead of making them 90 degrees off the road. Just, park 2 bikes next to each other, like a foot off the street. It's this way they're not sticking into the walkway area of these narrow sidewalks. And then you space those out every, 100 feet or whatever. Or strategically where you know that more bike users park their bikes. I think that's the easiest way to do it without having to get in the county involved. This way, it's your sidewalks. They're really curb to curb the county. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
So Antonio, if we wanted to present something where we took a parking space and wanted to convert it to bike parking, we would present a figure to send to the county, and we'd have to meet with the county engineer, and they
Absolutely.
would have to buy in.
Yeah. But I think if you're losing a parking space, again, that's something we would have to sell to the county, but I think it's an easier sell than losing a lane of roadway for a bike lane or something.
And timeline for a project like this?
For the construction of it, I'd have to touch base with our construction group to see what they'd say. But we'd have to develop a phasing plan to make sure you don't want to close too big a section and keep too many stores out of business, right? They got to be able to function. So that's something we would work when we put our plans together on how this could be phased and implemented, and potentially even work that into the bid to make sure the contractor follows a schedule.
Okay.
But off the
Thank
top
you.
of my head, I'd have to honestly revert. That's not my area of expertise.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you again. I don't have any further questions. I apologize that I'm having some technical difficulties with my internet connection this evening, so my camera keeps going in and out. But I will say that I think that you offered a comprehensive proposal and robust responses to my colleagues' questions. I will just flag for you, though, that where you discussed the streetscape needing to be prepared for flooding, to be aware that the length of Bloomfield Avenue floods, especially in heavy rains like we had last night. And so what we've often seen is that the trees get washed out and that the infrastructure is damaged as a result of these torrents of rain coming down the side of the mountain. So thank you.
I think what we should, well, not we, but look at the county. What they do a lot of times is convert the parallel spaces into permeable paving, right? So they use permeable asphalt as a means to, mitigate water, have it, assuming geotechnically there's enough separation from groundwater and it can permeate, a means to help control. But you'd have to do that at a larger clip. On our narrow sidewalk, unfortunately, it just tough to get anything that would make any impact to the flooding. But to your point, we got to make sure we can design and maybe implement some things. Water, when it gets speed, it erodes, right? So we may not be able to stop the speed of the amount of water, but if we can design something into the streetscape where we're breaking up the velocity and it's not as much damage, we can try and incorporate that, or just make sure our design is robust enough to be able to withstand the flooding.
One final question, that you don't have to take too long on this, just in the interest of time. What, in your experience, is the biggest mistake a municipality that you have seen has made related to a project like this?
To a streetscape, you mean?
Yes.
Not thinking of the local residents enough, and doing the construction in one big shot and allowing the contractor to get out of hand. That causes a lot of phone calls, a lot of headaches, and limiting the amount of disturbance at one time is huge in preventing that. Then you have using, like in this case, you have I think you used imprint asphalt as your paver strip. I think that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
That is not a robust material. You can see where it's breaking up and just falling apart after all these years. I would recommend in that location using more robust, like a stamped concrete, not even pavers, because the pavers will wash out. If the tree's getting washed out, the pavers are going to get washed out, and then you're going to have that issue to deal with. So, I think that those are my two biggest concerns.
Those are all good ones. Our former township manager and I both definitely wanted to do the stamped concrete instead of the asphalt. So
What
Mark?
you want to make sure, and this happens a lot, and it's usually because of a utility company, is you really over design something, and then the next day someone needs to put in a utility lateral and they patch it with asphalt or concrete, and you have this beautiful design, and this material is not readily available, it's too expensive. So kind of designing for something that can accommodate a sidewalk replacement, so if someone does have to do something or there's a repair, you can match the repair and that it just doesn't totally look different, or they can't find the material. Some pavers they don't make until you have over a certain so many thousand square feet, so someone has to do a little repair, they can't get the paver. So just trying to figure out something that can accommodate a fix or a patch in the future that doesn't now look totally out of the what's there now.
Thank you. Gentlemen, have a good evening. Thank you for hopping on our meeting tonight.
You're
For
welcome.
the opportunity.
Appreciate it. Thank
Good to
you.
meet you all.
All right, Mrs. Kiernan. We have T&M.
Over to you now.
I'm sorry, Strands. I'm looking at the order in my folder instead of on the agenda. All right, Strands Engineering next.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to turn on my camera. Is that, or do you have operations of the camera? I have my camera here. How's that?
We can see you and we can hear you.
Great.
Is anybody else joining you?
Yes, Brian Durr will be joining me from Lero Hill Engineering.
Mrs. Kiernan will get him in as well.
Just text me. Let's see what he says.
He is in the waiting room. He is coming in.
Okay. Need to be brought on. Thanks for having us.
Okay, it looks like we have Brian as well. Welcome, Brian.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Brian.
All right. Who is going to be presenting? Mrs. Kiernan will make you the meeting host.
So Brian's going to pull up the PowerPoint unless you have it on your end. I'm going to be presenting and I'm going to be passing it on to Brian from point to point. We have our PowerPoint about 15 minutes and we left 15 minutes for your actual questions.
Perfect. All right, Brian, you should have share privileges now.
You have to bear with me. Where is the share button?
There'll be a green button at the bottom of your screen.
Okay, thank you. Can you see it?
Yes.
Awesome.
Not the presentation though. You have the presentation up? We see your screen. Yes.
Okay.
Floor is yours.
Should we start? Okay. I want to thank the mayor and council for inviting us to present our presentation for Strands Engineering along with Laurel Hill Engineering. We're very excited to present our additional information for the engineering design services for Bloomfield Avenue streetscape improvements for Verona, New Jersey. Next slide. I just want to introduce some of our core competencies of both Strands Engineering and Laurel Hill Engineering. We are landscape architecture urban design firms. We are a multidisciplinary design firm. So we are always looking for design excellence on every one of our projects. We also have environmental planning, understanding all the NEPA and seeker requirements, environmental aspects. We are civil engineering, structural engineering, all engineering practices. We also have architecture within our facilities, recreation, educational, and governmental. Next slide. I just want to introduce you to some of our leadership team. My name is Jim Lau. I am the Vice President of Strands Engineering. I am the Director and Design for Environmental. I am a licensed landscape architect for the past 40 years. I have design and construction experience. I've had 30 years of New York State DOT experience on their transportation infrastructure projects. I want to introduce Avodia Abraham. She has over 15 years of practical experience in design and construction. She's presently in charge of all of our design projects that went into constructions to make sure they're all in compliance and meets the client's needs. We have Veronica Sittin, who is also a landscape architect with over 36 years of experience with design and construction, transportation, and infrastructure projects. She is our ADA specialist, bike pedestrian coordinator, and our cultural resource coordinator. I'd like to introduce you to Brian Durr from Laurel Hill, who is our partner on this project. Brian.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Brian Durr. I am from Laurel Hill. I recently joined Laurel Hill. I have over 17 years of roadway design experience in New Jersey and various other states. My experience includes projects just like this and also other multimodal conversions of corridors into including road diets. I had the pleasure of being selected by Engineering News Record last year as a top 20 under 40 engineer in the nation. Young engineer. I think I barely made it under that young bar though. And then on my team, I have Anthony Weber. He's our senior civil engineer, over 15 years of experience for him. He does site development, design, traffic engineering, and utility coordination. And then Francisco Gomez is our electrical engineer. He'll be handling our lighting design. Back to you, Jim.
Next slide. Next slide. This is basically a breadth of our projects. Again, these are all excellent design projects. Like I had mentioned, we are a design firm looking to have an impact on your community with the development of Bloomfield Avenue. As you can see here, Swindler's Cove is basically a 5-acre new park along the Harlem River Drive. We transformed this into basically from a dumping ground. We had wetland restorations about half an acre. We ended up developing a floating boathouse with a dock. The FDR Drive along Sutton Place Park. These are all renovated new parks, five pocket parks along the river. This is all on roof deck with all decorative pavement, plantings, lighting as well. Overlooking the East River to the 59th Street Bridge. Under the K Park, I was involved with all the restoration of Under the K, phases 1 and phase 2. I was responsible for all the environmental permitting, the NEPA seeker, the EIS as well. This park included about a mile segment. I did all the urban design work in reference to assuring that there was a park at the Newtown Creek as the magnet for that project. We developed a park on the Brooklyn side and the Queens side. Along the K Bridge, there's also a multi-use path. So there was never a connection between Brooklyn and Queens, and now there is through bicyclists and walkways. Bronxbury Greenway was about 2 miles of length of trails. This started as a restoration of Starlight Park, which was a playground. We ended up doing a master plan, assuring that all the communities were connected. Along the Bronx River, we ended up closing the Sheraton Expressway, turning it into a boulevard with all ADA, bicyclists, crosswalks, lighting as well. We had 4 pedestrian bridges, so other communities were basically connected, assuring that better quality of life for that entire Bronx area. Just a smaller scale project, but still made a impactful change within the community. This is the Kearney Public Library. It's a children's garden. This was through a Green Acres grant. The Green Acres grant was matched through the town of Kearney. I did the design basically. It's a wood trellis, small sitting area, ADA access, and perimeter fences. So these are all aspects I would like to bring forward to the redevelopment of Bloomfield Avenue in Verona. Brian's going to give you a breadth of Lero Hill's experience. Brian?
So we have 2 phases of the Grand Avenue Complete Streets Traffic Study. Phase 1, we did the traffic analysis and identified the feasible improvements and measures and did all the public outreach and coordination. It was through this phase that it was decided that a road diet was the preferred alternative. And then phase 2 of that was designing that road diet and implementing that design. The Highline Park reconstruction, this is I think everybody's pretty familiar with the Highline Park reconstruction in Manhattan. Lero performed as the resident engineer and construction support and inspection on that, which is important to this project because the RE and construction support is included in this Bloomfield Avenue project as well. So we bring that experience. The Route 347, Pleasant Road to Terry Road, was a design build contract where we did complete street and safety improvements as well, and made that a safer route for all. And then finally, the Route 112 reconstruction, Granny Road to Route 25, was a project that was a rural corridor, and it was converted to accommodate all modes of transportation, including adding a 2-way center left turn lane, and then improving all of the complete street and ADA aspects for bicycles and pedestrians. Jim?
Next slide. I just wanted to say that Lero Hill and Strands Engineering have multiple tudes of projects that we're teaming on, but I just want to bring you just a general understanding of specific sites, specific knowledges. I actually lived in Verona for probably 15 years, growing my older 2 kids. I'm familiar with the park system, where the police station is, the middle school. I understand that Verona is a diverse community, especially with Bloomfield Avenue having parks and recreations, basically the ball field closer to Montclair and Caldwell. The connection points of this corridor is key in reference to the entrance into Caldwell. I understand that there's a huge commercial retail hub that you want to retain there. We understand there are some really nice restaurants. I understand that the schools and churches are critical to this corridor, along with Verona Park, which was designed by Olmsted, the Olmsted brothers. And then we have the public facilities in reference to the fire station and the courtyard. And you have actually 2 side entrances into your parking spaces. Right now, they are slightly designed. I think that should be incorporated into the development of the streetscape. That's key in reference to your back end parking. Parking and on-street parking is critical in reference to Bloomfield Avenue. We understand that there are a lot of traffic that pulls into these kind of driveways, such as the Krausers, the gas station, some restaurants that have pull-in parking. So those safety aspects of where you have pedestrians and vehicles crossing are going to be critical. We want to make sure that those are all ADA compliant in reference to having the flat surface as you enter into a driveway. We also understand that the electric poles along the west side and the east side are still apparent, but you do have a great section in reference to the middle of town where you don't have any high-rise electrical poles, where you can actually accommodate more of a greener space. Also, in reference to your electric poles, they are fairly high, starting from Verona Park, heading towards Montclair, as you can see in the blue dotted lines. So there is capabilities of still putting a good amount of greenery. And next slide. We did our due diligence knowing that this is critical for the understanding of the project. I am familiar with it, but several of our team actually went out to the site and actually did an existing conditions evaluation of Verona. Understanding the current state of any project is key to gather that information and identify key issues to ensure that we have the solutions moving forward. Establishing a baseline. This establishes a baseline in reference to the conditions of your assets. Are your sidewalks in good condition? Could they be retained? Understanding that this is going to be cost effective in the long run, only correcting measures that particularly need them. This informative decision making is going to be key in reference to the design process and bringing this forward to the mayor and council, your engineers and your planners, and also the community, as well as the county. Right? We're always looking to engage our stakeholders to make sure we get their buy-in before we move forward with a particular design. And that's just cost effective in reference to assuring our design resources are efficiently spent. 5 key areas that we looked at were the curbs and crosswalks. We noticed that there were some, inconsistencies there. The street elements in reference to their conditions. Next slide. The parking management system that you have now is diverse, and I know that you have within your public spaces, you do have kiosks, and I think this is probably something that you're going to be looking forward to. I did talk to an officer, and he said they couldn't really express, what the new parking policies will be. He wanted to, but he said just couldn't. We did notice that there were QR codes for parking. There's still parking meters. We're not sure if they're still viable, and you do have some public signing in reference to where your parking is. I thought that would be key to bring up. Again, sidewalk and pedestrian buffer zone. This is a streetscape project, depending upon the level of commitment that you have. I think safety is going to be the key issue here in reference to restoring that corridor. And also the utilities and infrastructures. We know that a lot of the utilities and infrastructures are throughout the avenue in reference to your fire hydrants, drainage, electrical junction boxes, lighting, even cellars. We noticed that there are a couple of cellars entrances that are still viable. Whether they're still being used, can they be closed off? Can we talk to the actual owners of those? And of course, the electrical poles. Next slide. Our design approach. Downtown redevelopment process requires coordination and integral complex infrastructures and pedestrian-friendly elements. That's key, right? In reference to enhancing the commercial and residential development. We want the main streets to be viable, instead of just, we want those, we don't want vacancies in our commercial districts. We want them all to be within the community, and that's just going to increase your quality of life. Both Strands Engineering and Lero Engineering are context-sensitive designers. As you can see with all of our projects, they are award-winning, and we want to bring that to Verona. Context-sensitive design is looking at the existing conditions of the community, whether you have a brick facade or a concrete facade. These are elements of architecture and design and landscape architecture. Besides being a true engineering firm, we have those design aesthetics that we want to bring forward. We'll make sure that we discuss it with all, sorry, stay there. Can you go back? Key aspects are vision zero, placemaking. We want to make this a destination point, beautification, and safe streets for all. Is a federal infrastructure grant that hopefully Verona, we can help you actually apply for those grants for any kind of additional phases of the streetscapes. Next slide. We actually went and spent some time doing some renderings just to show you what our capabilities are. We can develop street sections using existing photographs, just showing just aspects of street sections. Next slide. Street elevations, again, just showing our capabilities, conveying this to the mayor and council, to your engineers, and also the community and the county. Next slide. We have 3D rendering capabilities. This just shows some of the crosswalk intersections, looking at consistencies in reference to your crosswalks, your UTC signs, AASHTO standards, making sure all of your ADA standards are in place, along with PROAG for federal standards. For your lighting, dark skies, make sure that we don't have any splash into these residential areas, because you do have residents within some of your structures. Next slide. Then also, we can do plan view renderings. We looked at where you have yellow lines, where you can't park due to the corner intersections. Again, we would look at the sight lines to make sure that there's no disturbance. But this areas could be used for general use, such as bicycle parking, stormwater capture, rain gardens. We feel that resiliency is key to any new infrastructure that's happening within this corridor. As you develop and put funding into resource, you want to look at multifaceted solutions, not just beautification of a buffer, but looking at all the possibilities of a betterment for the community. Next slide. We just looked at, just in reference to the inconsistencies of the sidewalk, and just visually when you have a fading, one line is just as any basic designs, you could see that having continuity between your streetscape is key. And just moving that one line over, it's not going to change anything, but visually just makes it better. And these are just several options that we looked at. Again, these are not solutions that we want to bring forward, but just our capabilities. Next slide. We looked at the existing pavement, the surrounding areas where it might be brick or concrete. Next slide. You notice that you have a lot of meters. By removing the meters, it just declutters things. Looking at the vocabulary and color and texture of your streetscape is going to be critical. Adding trees and green infrastructures as well for stormwater capture. Next slide. As you can see here, your concrete pavement is in very good condition. Next slide. Some of our design vocabulary, we feel linear pavements or permeable pavers is key in reference to the flexibility. If you did have utility removals and stuff like that, you can remove the pavers and replace them. We always look to have an inventory within the DPW to assure that when we do purchase or any kind of residual, materials is available. Next slide. Quality control and quality assurance is critical for the success of any firm in any project. We understand that this is developing the scope, understanding the design process, the schedule and goals, and our deliverables, understanding that we would convey that to you up front so that there's no, so we meet your schedules and also your budget as well. Quality control plans ensure the success of build-in checks and balances so that everybody's accountable. We have quality management teams that are knowledgeable, and we set milestones for all of our staff. Stakeholders, we make sure there's public engagement in reference to your town and community. We are landscape architects, so we are great communicators, both as well as visually and verbally. We'll make sure that we have buy-in from all the aspects, and this is key to any kind of environmental process or planning process. If it's not accepted, then it won't be successful in the long run. Communication and documentation is critical to the success of the project. I think everybody knows that. Next slide. The Strands advantage, along with our Laurel Hill teammates. We're solution-based thinkers, right? We want to have a solution. We don't want to say no to something. There's always some kind of alternative that is a betterment. And if you ask us a question, we're going to think about it. We're going to come up with a solution. We're going to be open to having that with all of our teammates, knowing that their outlook might be slightly different. So we're always looking for a fresh outlook. We have impactful leadership. Our leadership are knowledgeable in reference to all of their expertise, whether they're ADA specialists, pedestrian specialists, bicycle specialists, cultural resources, whether they're traffic engineers. So that's critical. We acknowledge critical thinking, right? We want to be able to bring solutions forward. Solution-based thinking is critical to success of any projects because with discussions, you have an open forum to discuss alternatives. Communicating ideas and solution openly. So that's key. Next slide. I just want to let Brian talk a little bit about Laurel Hill's construction support and also for the procurement processes. Brian?
Yes. So Lero has a lot of experience with helping out with procurement. We will assess or assist you in procuring a contractor or contractors if we split this out into phases by helping you with the bid analysis and support and answering any RFIs and any other questions. And then during construction, we will answer the contractor's questions in a timely fashion and make sure all of that is recorded with our already in place QA/QC process and record keeping. Thank you.
I guess we'll leave it for any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Brian, if you could stop screen sharing, we'll be able to see everybody. Perfect. Thank you. And if you can return the host to meeting host Verona. We'll start with Councilman Roman this time.
Certainly. One of the big challenges that we have in Verona with the streetscape is that our sidewalks have variable width by quite a bit. There are some areas where the sidewalks are very wide. There are some areas where they're very narrow. How do you create a cohesive streetscape design throughout the community given that challenge?
So we took the measurements. I think right now you have about 15 feet. Your present buffer is about 4 feet. I think a solution would be just to have a consistent line, right, in reference to having that zone. As you can see in reference to some of our renderings, you're not going to be able to expand on too much of that. But if you have a lot of street furniture breaking that line, it just becomes too busy. So just having a straight kind of definitive line, we're looking at probably 5 feet is probably a little bit more optimum. That still allows you a nice width for pedestrians to walk. We did notice closer to that new development with the 2 new buildings closer to Montclair, that streetscape is a little bit wider. And they did have yellow lines as well in reference to no frontage parking. That might just be an aspect that they didn't want parking in front of their building. But the yellow lines that you have throughout the corridor could be a bulb out. Those bulb outs are going to increase your width for planting and green infrastructure. Right now, if you only have 4 feet of planting area, we make it 5. We can add another 10 for your these bulb outs. That gives us 15 feet for probably at least 2 to 3 parking spaces. Again, we would have to get all the buy-in from all the municipalities along with the county, and that's going to be critical. Again, we had discussed that in reference to our stakeholders. But that would give you 15 feet, which is more plant friendly. They'll be able to survive. And any stormwater capture, we can capture in those pockets as well. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you much.
Any other
Sorry,
questions?
no, I'm having some internet connection difficulties, so I'll let you jump over to someone else. Thank
All
you.
right, Deputy Mayor.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am muted. First, Brian and Jim, thank you for your presentation, and the RFP was very informative. And you went through several things in here. I did like a lot of your ideas, and you were the one I held my stormwater management question up for, because I think that's our #1 problem with our downtown. Parking is always an issue. It's been an issue forever. But I always say to people, if you want to walk a block, you have parking for any store you want to visit or any location you want to visit. So I did notice along the street line, your pictures, which were very specific to Verona, which I loved. You can see that we have erosion issues, and it goes mostly the west side of Bloomfield Avenue from Verona Park goes all the way up to Fairview Avenue where the town center starts. You can see where the tree plantings are. When we get a heavy rain, all the mulch that's been put in there in any time is completely wiped out. There's some areas where it's probably 10 to 12 inches deep. So I think it's a hazard. I noticed in your plan, you actually tripled the size of those areas left and right of the trees and put the steel grates on, which I thought was a really good idea. I will say no to the wood chips that you have on the other part and expand the steel grates, but I do appreciate that you even a little bit took in some of the stormwater in those areas a little bit more. My question is, are those areas connected to the storm sewer system?
Yes. So there are green. Yeah, so there are green infrastructures that we work with. In reference to New York DEP, they've been including these green infrastructures where you have the drainage. You'll have a curb cut to allow some of that water to flow into these green spaces. And these are pretty much design alternatives that are fresh, right? They're fresh designs. We're looking at all these new alternatives in reference to the stormwater capture. I know that you do have asphalted stamped, so by having that, you don't have the impervious water, right? We would like to look at more of a modular pavement, and aesthetically linear pavements are going to extend your viewpoint. Just visually, just longer elements along the perspective just has a better view shed. But that would also allow for permeability into these, basically that entire strip, 5 feet strip could be stormwater capture. And that's just general rainwater, right? Instead of rainwater hitting into these little trenches and washing into your storm system, flooding the system, that just allows rainwater to seep into that strip. Again, any kind of conveyance is going to be critical. Also in reference to the drainage system, we can run a drainage analysis in reference to, do you need more catch basins? Are your pipe sizes critical? Again, that's a huger development question. But if stormwater and flooding is an issue, that's the problem. And everybody will think about the solution. Well, what are the solutions? What are the alternatives? Is it a cost effective or it's not cost effective? And they're always looking for long-term betterments are good. along with working with your DPW in reference to maintenance. I talked about having pavers. If you replace a utility line, having a pavers to take out and reinstall is a lot better than having, sort of scarring of your environment through utilities. So that's always critical because you're never going to be able to afford everything right away. So there's always going to be a phasing within this entire quarter.
So I will say I do appreciate in your presentation you also talked about the other part of Bloomfield Avenue, which is our extended town center. And I saw that you did put the bump outs in those areas, which I think are appropriate because we do have some room there to do that. I appreciate your time that you spent on this. Thank you.
Councilwoman McGrath.
Thank you so much for your presentation. One of the keys to success is going to be stakeholder management. On one front, what I didn't hear you really speak to is how the public gets involved in this project. Clearly, there's going to be a team involved of stakeholders, but I would like your thoughts on the larger public. And then the other piece is Essex County. So can you talk specifically, have you had any direct experience with Essex County? Thank you.
Yes. So right now we are actually the town engineer for Montclair. Montclair is basically where their historic preservation, so we're their engineers. Again, in reference to stakeholders, I've been with New York State DOT for 30 years, and working with them, you're always going through the environmental process, whether it's a seeker process or a NEPA process, and their formula is buy-in is so critical because with the reference to public funding, you got to make sure all the stakeholders are accounted for. And let's say we're working with the county and then we find out that they have a project that might be impacting this project, or if we could, discuss resources that they could, develop on. Same thing if you have a developer coming in. I noticed that there are some empty lots within Bloomfield Avenue. So if those parcels are going to be developed as commercial, those developers will be key stakeholders in reference to that development. All your residents as well, they live on Bloomfield Avenue, so their entrance and exit points are going to be critical. You have commercial facilities, you have the car dealership, you have Ray's Pizza. I think Ray's Pizza is still there. Again, they're towards the end of Bloomfield Avenue, but that's a huge establishment, right? I don't know if our touch points are going to go that far, but pulling into their parking lot into any kind of pull-in parking lot is going to be critical, and those sight lines are going to be critical. So the streetscapes should be integrated in reference to that. So every stakeholder is important. We usually set up a public outreach plan that we could share with Verona, and that public outreach plan would be something that we would sit down with you, our Lero engineering and Strands engineering team would outline those. Are there any environmental permits? Are there any specific permits that are required before we actually start our plans? So the planning process is critical for our budgetary constraints, as well as assuring that when we do move forward with the design, there's no questions, right? Everybody's got to buy in. The schematics are fairly inexpensive before we're getting into contract documents. So that's critical.
I'd like to add to that for just a little bit. Something that we've done in the past recently is, we live in we're meeting via Zoom, right? So we're digital age. So I think creating like a website and giving people access to the website, and then having, being able to post questions and answers on the website is a good way to interact with the public these days, because everybody's attached to these things, right? So, and even, at Ray's Pizza, you could send out to the local businesses, like a little thing that had with the QR code, that while they're waiting in line for their slice of pizza, they could snap the QR code and that'll take them to the question and answer or to the presentation that was held last week at the Public Information Center.
So you envision kind of a presentation, getting feedback, but then furthering that with a website where more feedback can be collected for a period of time from the public in particular, and possibly the business community as a piece of it and whatnot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good way to engage more people, because not everybody, I mean, everybody, might be on the Verona Facebook page, but maybe they miss it. If you have it posted in different places, it catches more people.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Councilwoman Holland.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say I really appreciated your presentation. I thought it was really well put together, and I'll echo statements from Councilman McAvoy about, your using the depictions in Verona was very helpful. I also just want to say that I really appreciated your proactive statement about the benefit of kind of a multi-value approach to the streetscaping design. Because as I've said a couple of times this evening, we do have flooding issues down Bloomfield Avenue. I had likewise referenced the fact that the street trees are often washed out, that there are torrents of water that are coming down the mountains. And as a result, it kind of is very damaging. So it's not just planning for around the Peckman River portion, it's actually the full length of the Bloomfield Avenue corridor. So I appreciate that you had some of that proactively in your presentation. I also noticed that you did have the inclusion of the grates, which the green infrastructure elements I really appreciated. Visually, though, as I was considering the grates, I think that's a good opportunity. I loved the fact that you were kind of evening out the line, as you were saying. And I think that adds a lot of value, and it's that multi-value, right? Where you're addressing perhaps some stormwater management issues, maybe not doing a whole stormwater, project, but making it multi-value with the streetscape. But with the grates, one of the thoughts that came to my mind on that is the maintenance and the durability and the cost associated with those, because it is a heavily traversed corridor. I do anticipate that we will have damage to those grates. How easily are they repaired, replaced? What is the cost associated with them? Do you have experience?
So as a designer, we're looking at materials and how they could be used. So these are just these are industrial grates, right? They're not specifically tree grate. So we're always looking at materials used in different manners, and a lot of these materials could be relatively cheap. You'd be surprised they could charge you $5,000 for a tree grate because they're saying it's a tree grate. But we're just looking at industrial materials that could be cut to size, and just placed. Again, it had to be framed out in some manner to make sure that it's stable, ensure that the spacing is tight enough to be able to traverse over. But we're always looking at materials in reference to different uses in a least expensive manner, right? So our design solutions are not just even though they may be custom, but they're a inexpensive custom, right? Under the K, all we used was concrete and asphalt, the cheapest materials possible. And we produced that park during the pandemic. And I think we designed it and built it within like 15 months using in-house forces. So materials is critical in reference to it could be durable and yet inexpensive, but you got to look at all the aspects. And something that's off the shelf may be, it may not be as the solution. So we're always looking to change, look at the environment and see what's out there.
All right, thank you. As was stated earlier this evening, wanting this to, whatever solutions are ultimately settled on, wanting it to be something that can endure and not wanting to have situations where if there is an issue with something, if there's a car accident or something that resulted in damage, that we're then not without a stretch of the sidewalk or losing some of the advantages of the streetscape investment that we just did.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Okay. A couple questions. First, is Teresa Lau your daughter?
Yes.
Teresa, tell Dr. Lau that I say hello. It's been been 15 years or something like that, but tell her I say hello.
Oh, really? She's with the Mets now. So
is she with the Mets now? I know she was out in the Midwest for a while, but
yeah,
that's
with
good.
Milwaukee now. She's actually the personal trainer and PT for Lindor.
Okay. Well, tell her Verona's thinking about her. Even us Yankees fans. Just one little question, or I guess it's a big little question, but you've done a lot of pretty large scale projects, right? That you've included that have been pretty impressive. I've had the opportunity to actually see some of them in person. What lessons can you take from some of these very large scale projects to apply to our smaller scale project here in the streetscape of what worked, what didn't work? How does that experience help you with our streetscape?
So in reference to, I'm a designer at heart. That's why I included the Carney Library. The budget there was only $250,000, 275 with the design fees. And it had a wood trellis, right? So the detailing of that trellis was all custom, but it was really relatively inexpensive. It depending on how you put things and puzzle pieces together to make it aesthetically pleasing. Again, we're a design firm. We're with all the expertise of an engineering firm, but that's what we want to bring forward. And we want to make it transformative, right? To make it, Verona a place, we're placemakers as well. So it depends on how the materials are and how they're put together and aesthetically. And, are they in reference to engineering? I know how deep a footing needs to be. I know the connection points, but the artistic availability is critical to our team.
And are there any regrets that you have had clients express that we should potentially avoid in this process? That something looked good and then in the end it didn't turn out to be a good idea?
Regrets in reference to design solutions, you mean?
Yes. Yeah. If there's anything that folks really wanted that we might push for that we should probably avoid based on problems that have happened after the design phase.
Yeah. So for streetscapes, I feel what is critical is safety for the most part, right? If we discuss safety and the aesthetics become something that is part of the design team. So functionality in reference to anything is going to be critical. Public safety and public awareness. So if there's any regret, we would try to move away from those regrets to ensure that there is success. Any regrets that I have for the projects that I worked on, I feel that once you create a project and it kind of has a breath of its own, then it means that it's a success, right? Because but if it fails, I don't think I've had any failures. I don't want to say.
No, I'm not asking you for that. If there's any common pitfalls we should avoid, I guess is maybe the better. I think I asked this question better a couple people ago, but any common pitfalls that you have seen we should.
I think what's critical is you don't want a commonality of just put a bunch of street furniture out there, pick a bunch of off the shelf trash receptacles. Is a trash receptacles required, right? If you don't have a trash can, you're not going to have people throwing trash there. So there's always alternative thinking, right? In reference to like right now we have EV vehicles. EV vehicles are going to change the landscape, similar to bicyclists, right? Bicyclists, powered bikes. So it changes the landscape. So we have to look at alternatives that are, aesthetically pleasing, but also safe. I did notice that you did have several trash receptacles, and are they used? Does that increase your maintenance? Things like that. Also benches. There was no benches, but as you get older, and our community is getting older, as they're walking along the streetscape, it's nice to have a couple of benches in some key locations. I know that as you head closer to Montclair. I think there's just a few stores here. I think they're kind of antique stores. And then there's the 7-Eleven there. 7-Eleven, right?
Yep.
Is it? Yeah. So the streetscape's different. And then you have that new development, the commercial development. And those are things that we would look at in reference to assuring that each segment of the corridor is slightly different, but having some level of consistency.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your presentation and the thoroughness of it. And we will be in touch through the township manager. And at this point, you all are welcome to sign off.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Right. Now is the time for public comment on any matter that the public wishes to address with the council. Madam Clerk, would you please read the public participation statement?
Sorry, I haven't. Anyone wishing to speak any matter, please raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on your monitor, or if you're dialing in by phone, press *9. If you're nope, we're not attending. Once you're recognized, clearly state only your name and township of residence for the record. You're not required to provide your street address. However, if you do, please note that these meetings will be posted in the township's YouTube channel, and addresses will not be redacted for any purpose. You have 4 minutes to address the council. After everyone wishing to speak has been heard, council may address your comments and or questions. And it's open, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, seeing no public participation, I will close public participation. Mr. O'Sullivan, we will be adding on the agenda at some point in the near future to have a discussion on these proposals.
Yes, Mayor. I'll have this added to my monthly report.
Okay, excellent. And any other business from the council members? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Well, I think we all agree on something, so I'm gonna give it to Councilman Roman because he got to adjourn on an airplane. So so he has the motion. The second will be Deputy Mayor McAvoy. There are people I heard, and I saw a lot of lips move, but that's it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed is welcome to stay on the Zoom. Motion is carried. Everybody have a good evening. We'll see you on Monday for our regular meeting.
All right, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.